A school bought 25 potted plants to line along a corridor from the start to the end. The distance between each pot was 1.2 meters. So the distance between one pot, let's say this is a pot and this is another pot. The distance between each other is 1.2 meters. 16% of the potted plants were damaged during the delivery and could not be used. 16% of the potted plants. How many potted plants did she buy? Did the school buy? 25 potted plants, right? So it's 16% of the potted plants. 16% changed to fraction is 16 over 100, right? So you have to simplify this. How to simplify? Divide by 2, divide by 2. So you can simplify some more. Divide by 2, divided by 2. So this one is the simplest form. So 16% is equals to 4 out of 25. So 16% of the 25 potted plants. So it's 4 over 25. Off is times the number of potted plants, which is 25. So you can cancel, right? These two are the same. You get 4. So 4 of the potted plants were damaged. You know that 4 of the potted plants were damaged during delivery and could not be used. The remaining potted plants were then shifted to line the corridor from the start to the end, at equal distance from each other. How many potted plants were damaged during the delivery? Okay, we found earlier. What was the length of the corridor? Okay, what's the length of the corridor? So the length of the corridor is, because the school at first bought 25, right, potted plants to line from the start of the corridor to the end of the corridor. So they put one pot over here, then leave a 1.2 meter gap, then you put another pot. Then you leave another 1.2 gap, then you put another pot. And then it keeps on repeating until they finish putting 25 potted plants, okay? So how many potted plants here do you see now, right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 potted plants. So between the distance between these 4 potted plants is the distance between these 4 potted plants is 1.2 times 3. Okay? So let's say we put one more over here. 1.2. One more potted plant. So right now you have 5 potted plants. And the distance between these, from the first potted plant to the 5th potted plant, is 1.2 times 4. When there's 4 potted plants, it's 1.2 times 3. So it's one number lesser than 4. 3. So if there's 5 potted plants, you take 1.2 times 4 when there's 5 potted plants, okay? 5 minus 1, you get 4. So there's a pattern. So you know that they bought 25 potted plant, right? So the distance would be always 1.2 times one number less than 25. It's always one number less. When there's 4 potted plants, the distance is 1.2 times 3, which is 4 minus 1. And when there's 5 potted plants, you take 1.2 times 4. 4 is 5 minus 1. So when there's 25 potted plants, you take 1.2 times a number which is 25 minus 1. 25 minus 1 is 24, right? So this is the distance from the first potted plant all the way to the 25th potted plant. You get your answer over here. So now, the distance between from the start to the end of the corridor remains the same, right? But the number of potted plants are different because 4 of them were damaged. So he was only left with how many potted plants left? 4 were damaged. So is how many potted plants left? 25 minus 4, which is 21 potted plants left. So now we only can use 21 potted plants from start to end. Previously it was 25 potted plants, right? So now it's 21 potted plants. You know that the distance from the start to the end is this one over here, which you found earlier in part B. And now you have to evenly split out the 21 potted plants. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way until you put the 21st potted plant. So now you have to find what's the distance between each. Okay? So you know that there's a pattern previously where we always take the number of potted plants minus 1 to get the number of gaps, like we did in part B. So here we have 21 potted plants. So the number of gaps would be 21 minus 1 would be 20. So now we know that there are 20 gaps between these 21 potted plants. And these 20 gaps make up this total length of the corridor. So how do we find one gap? If 20 gaps equals to the total distance of the corridor, one gap is one gap would be how much?